On the 25th of May, 2026, Iran and the United States stood on the brink of their most dangerous military confrontation since the 1980s tanker war. In a single night, the IRGC deployed over 2,400 naval mines, dozens of Ghadir-class stealth submarines, and waves of fast attack craft across the narrowest section of the Strait of Hormuz. In response, the U.S. has assembled a massive carrier strike group and advanced mine-hunting fleet with one clear mission: permanently neutralize Iran's ability to close this critical choke point. This is no longer just a regional dispute. It is a high-stakes clash between American technological superiority and Iran's asymmetric warfare, with the world's energy security hanging in the balance. Tell me in the comments, do you think this standoff will lead to war, or will one side blink first? To understand why the situation escalated so dramatically, we must look at the dangerous strategy Iran has been preparing for years. The IRGC has turned the Strait of Hormuz into a deadly trap. Using their stealthy Ghadir-class mini-submarines, each just 29 meters long, weighing 125 tons, and crewed by only 7 sailors, Iran has been laying thousands of advanced Maham-3 and Maham-7 naval mines at key choke points. These smart mines are designed to detect the acoustic signatures of large tankers and warships. At the same time, fleets of Ghazi-class fast attack craft have been positioning themselves to launch swarm attacks, ready to overwhelm American ships with sheer numbers, while simultaneously deploying drifting mines. This combination of stealth submarines, speedboats, and mines was meant to create a lethal gauntlet through which no ship could safely pass. Iran's goal was brutally simple: threaten to close the strait, through which approximately 20 million barrels of oil flow every single day, representing 20% of global seaborne oil trade, and force the world to accept its demands. By using low-cost, high-volume weapons, Tehran hoped to raise the price of American presence so high that Washington would eventually back down or agree to a favorable ceasefire. This is the classic mosquito versus elephant strategy. Iran betting that enough cheap mines, drones, and speedboats could bleed a much more powerful opponent and paralyze global energy flows. But this reckless gamble comes at an enormous human cost. Iranian leaders are putting at risk not only their own people, but also millions of families worldwide who depend on stable energy prices. A sudden closure or major incident in the strait could send oil prices skyrocketing, triggering inflation, higher fuel costs, and economic pain felt from American truck drivers to European households to Asian factories. What Iran saw as its ultimate trump card, the ability to weaponize one of the world's most critical waterways, is now being directly challenged by overwhelming American naval power. The very strategy Tehran relied on for decades is rapidly becoming its greatest liability. In direct response to Iran's aggressive mining and swarm strategy, the United States has unleashed one of the most intensive naval operations in the Persian Gulf in modern times. As of the 20th of May, 2026, U.S.-led coalition forces have already destroyed approximately 7,200 naval mines. That's 90% of Iran's estimated total stockpile of 8,000 mines. At the same time, American and partner navies have sunk or disabled 161 IRGC and Iranian Navy vessels, including many key mine-laying platforms and fast attack craft that were responsible for seeding the dangerous minefields. The operation is spearheaded by the USS George H.W. Bush Carrier Strike Group, supported by Arleigh Burke-class destroyers such as the USS John Finn and USS Milius, Independence-class littoral combat ships, and a large fleet of specialized underwater drones. These forces are working methodically to clear safe corridors through the most heavily mined sections of the strait, especially the narrow 2-1 nautical mile passage between Iran and Oman. Advanced mine countermeasures are playing a decisive role. Mk-18 Mod, 2 Kingfish and Knifefish autonomous underwater vehicles are scanning the seabed in real time. MH-60 Seahawk helicopters, equipped with airborne laser mine detection systems, ALMDS, are identifying mines from the air, while Archerfish kamikaze robots are being used to destroy them precisely. This combination of manned and unmanned systems allows the U.S. to clear large areas much faster and safer than in previous eras. Safe passage for commercial ships is gradually increasing. Several major shipping companies have already begun using the newly cleared corridors under U.S. naval escort, although traffic remains far below normal levels due to lingering risks. This is not a simple escort mission. The United States is not just reacting to Iran's threats, it is systematically dismantling Tehran's decades-old asymmetric advantage in the strait. The IRGC's mosquito fleet and mine doctrine, which they spent years developing, has been largely neutralized in a matter of weeks through a combination of overwhelming naval power and cutting-edge robotics. The psychological impact on the IRGC cannot be overstated. Iranian commanders who once boasted they could close the strait within hours are now watching their carefully prepared minefields disappear one by one. Many fast attack boat crews have reportedly refused orders to return to the most dangerous zones. But beyond the military success, there is a vital humanistic dimension. Every neutralized mine and every cleared corridor reduces the risk of a catastrophic environmental disaster. A single major incident involving a very large crude carrier could spill millions of barrels of oil into the Gulf, devastating marine life and coastal communities for generations. By clearing these threats, the U.S. and its partners are protecting not only freedom of navigation, but also the fragile marine environment and the livelihoods of millions who depend on these waters. The United States did not just respond to Iran's aggression. It is dismantling the very tools Iran used to threaten the world's energy security. After watching the U.S. systematically destroy the majority of its minefields and fast attack boats, Iran has been forced to pivot to its remaining tools in a desperate attempt to regain the initiative. Tehran's current strategy relies heavily on its stealthy Ghadir-class mini-submarines, swarms of Shahed 136 derivative drones, and surviving Ghashi-class fast attack boats. These low-cost, high-volume assets are being deployed in coordinated waves to try to overwhelm American defenses and disrupt commercial shipping. In the past 10 days alone, Iran has launched at least 124 Shahed-type drones and attempted multiple submarine incursions into the main shipping channels. The United States, however, is countering with an entirely different level of warfare. Virginia-class nuclear attack submarines are quietly patrolling the deeper waters, using advanced sonar to track Iranian subs. P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft are dropping sonobuoys across wide areas, creating a real-time underwater sensor network. Towed array sonars on destroyers and AI-supported unmanned surface vessels are scanning for any movement. Meanwhile, EA-18G Growler electronic warfare jets are flying constant missions, jamming Iranian radars and communication links with devastating effectiveness. This is a fascinating and lopsided technological showdown. Iran is playing the classic mosquito versus elephant game, hoping that enough cheap drones, submarines, and speedboats can create chaos and raise the cost of American presence. The U.S., by contrast, is fighting with precision, superior sensors, and networked systems that allow it to see and respond to threats faster than Iran can react. So far, American technology and training are proving overwhelmingly superior. Many Iranian drones are being intercepted before they can reach their targets. Iranian submarine movements are being tracked and neutralized. The U.S. has also adopted a policy of surgical strikes on empty Iranian tankers to paralyze oil exports without causing major environmental disasters. The human reality behind this arms race is sobering. Seafarers from dozens of nations, Filipinos, Indians, Ukrainians, Russians, continue to sail through these waters every day, knowing they are operating in the middle of a high-tech battlefield. Oil workers on platforms and in ports live with the constant anxiety of sudden attacks. Families back home in many countries worry about rising fuel prices and potential supply disruptions that could affect everything from groceries to heating bills. This technological confrontation in the Strait of Hormuz is redefining modern naval warfare. Iran's low-cost swarm tactics, once considered a serious threat, are being systematically countered by America's high-tech, precision-dominated approach. The gap between the two sides' capabilities is widening, not narrowing. The IRGC is learning a hard lesson. In the 21st century, quantity is not always better than quality, especially when facing a military that combines overwhelming firepower with superior sensors and real-time coordination. The battle for the strait is far from over, but the technological tide is clearly turning. While the United States engages Iran in a high-tech naval showdown in the Strait of Hormuz, the Gulf states are not waiting passively for the outcome. They are taking decisive action to ensure their future no longer depends on Tehran's threats. The UAE and Saudi Arabia are accelerating massive bypass infrastructure projects at unprecedented speed. The UAE's second Habshan Fujairah pipeline, stretching 460 kilometers from Abu Dhabi's oil fields to the Gulf of Oman, is now on a crash schedule. Saudi Arabia is expanding the Petroline East-West pipeline to a full capacity of 7 million barrels per day, and pushing forward the $26.6 billion land bridge railway network, which will connect Jeddah on the Red Sea directly to Dammam on the Gulf, allowing cargo to completely bypass Hormuz. At the same time, these countries are rapidly enhancing their military capabilities through stronger cooperation with Turkey. In early May 2026, the UAE signed agreements to integrate Al-Tariq precision-guided bombs onto Bayraktar Akinci heavy attack drones. Saudi Arabia has purchased multiple Korkut anti-drone systems and advanced laser weapons. Kuwait, Qatar, and even Iraq are acquiring Turkish Hisar air defense batteries and Akinci UAVs for layered protection of their critical energy infrastructure. This is a historic strategic shift. For decades, Gulf nations lived with the constant fear that Iran could disrupt their oil exports through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, they are actively building an alternative energy and security architecture that makes Iran's threats increasingly irrelevant. Bypass routes, high-speed railways, and advanced Turkish defense systems are creating redundancy and resilience that Tehran cannot easily counter. The Gulf states are no longer playing a cautious balancing game. They are choosing clear alignment with the West, with each other, and with Turkey to reduce dependence on a volatile neighbor. The Abraham Accords and deepening security partnerships have given them the confidence to confront Iranian influence more directly rather than through quiet accommodation. For Iran, this is a nightmare scenario. Its primary leverage, the ability to threaten the world's most important energy choke point, is being systematically eroded. As new pipelines and railways come online and Gulf defenses strengthen, Tehran's ability to blackmail the region through Hormuz is fading. But beyond geopolitics and strategy, there is a deeply human dimension. These bypass projects and defense investments are ultimately about protecting stability. Secure energy routes mean more predictable oil prices, which directly affect the cost of gasoline, food, transportation, and heating for millions of families across Asia, Europe, and beyond. By building alternatives to Hormuz, the Gulf states are helping prevent sudden economic shocks that hurt the poorest households the hardest. The message from Abu Dhabi and Riyadh is loud and clear. The era of living at the mercy of Iran's threats is ending. The Gulf is building a new future, one based on self-reliance, strategic partnerships, and reduced vulnerability. And Iran is watching its once powerful geographic advantage slip away. The pieces are falling into place, and the picture is now unmistakable. Iran's long-held Hormuz doctrine, its ability to blackmail the world by threatening one of the planet's most vital energy arteries, is collapsing under the combined pressure of relentless U.S. naval operations, the Gulf states' aggressive bypass infrastructure projects. What Tehran spent decades building as its ultimate strategic weapon has been exposed, degraded, and increasingly neutralized in a matter of weeks. The Iranian regime now stands at a dangerous crossroads. It can choose controlled diplomatic retreat to salvage what remains of its economy, launch a desperate military escalation that risks devastating retaliation, or resort to nuclear posturing in a final attempt to regain leverage. Each option carries enormous risk. Long-term, a new security and trade architecture is emerging in the Middle East. The UAE and Saudi Arabia are no longer passive players. They are actively rewriting the rules with pipelines, railways, and advanced defense systems. Iran's geographic advantage is being turned into a strategic liability. Its ability to hold global energy flows hostage is dramatically diminishing. What we are witnessing is the slow but steady unraveling of Iran's most potent asymmetric tool. The IRGC's decision to weaponize the Strait of Hormuz has backfired spectacularly, accelerating the very isolation and weakness it sought to prevent. At its heart, this crisis is about people. It is about whether one regime can continue endangering the lives and livelihoods of millions from American families, filling up at gas stations to Asian factory workers and European households through reckless threats and hidden weapons. True leadership means choosing stability and de-escalation over confrontation that only brings suffering to ordinary citizens on all sides. The coming weeks will be decisive. But one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The balance of power in the Gulf has shifted, and it has shifted against Iran.